Those two prayers at the beginning of our class are an offering of appreciation to my teacher, Prabhupada. The first prayer, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Iti Namine, in the name of Swamin Bhaktivedanta, my teacher Bhaktivedanta Swami. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, at the feet of Vishnu or Krishna, where my spiritual master dwells. I offer obeisances to you. The second part of that prayer, Namaste Saraswati Devi. Saraswati refers to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, my teacher's teacher. So just as we offer thanks to our teacher, so our teachers offer their thanks to their teachers. So in this prayer it says, my thanks to you, disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharine. You are Prachara, you are distributing the message of Gaura, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who pioneered the renaissance of Krishna Bhakti, Krishna devotion in the 15th century. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Paschatya Desha means the Western countries where people have had no background in devotional life, according to the Vaishnava understanding. And what are the two hurdles to that understanding of our relationship with the Supreme Being? Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, impersonalism and voidism. Impersonalism means the mistaken idea that God is just an amorphous, nondescript energy, and ignorance of God's personhood, which is the very foundation of relationship, is that there are people involved. And Shunyavadi means the mistaken idea that once you've achieved the fullness of your yoga practice, of your spiritual realization, that you cease to exist, that you fade from existence altogether. So these ideas that the goal is either a cessation of existence or a merging into the oneness of all creation, those two mistaken ideas you have come, O disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta, to remedy, to correct those misunderstandings. So those are the two prayers that are offered at the beginning. Welcome, one and all, to our gathering this evening. Let me share the screen and we'll come up on our Isopanishad session for today. This is the 9th session, and we are moving into mantra 7 of Isopanishad. Again, some housekeeping for you. Please keep your video on and your mic muted. We will post all of our discussions to our Facebook page, Gita Wisdom Teachings, and on YouTube, if you search for Gita Wisdom Joshua Green. And if you have a question, type it in the chat box or simply type, I have a question, and I'll call on you. Or when we come to the discussion part, you're welcome to unmute, and we will have a live chat. So I'm trying to see how we move. There we go. Mantra 7. You're welcome to first recite with me line by line, and then we'll add the melody and chant this together. Yasmin sarvani bhutani. Try that. Yasmin sarvani bhutani. Atmeva buddh vijanataha. Atmeva buddh vijanataha. Tatra ko mohakakshoka. Tatra ko mohakakshoka. Ekatvam anupashyataha. Ekatvam anupashyataha. And now here's with the melody. Yasmin sarvani bhutani.
Yasmin sarvani bhutani.
Atmaiva buddh vijanataha. Atmaiva buddh vijanataha. Tatra ko mohakakshoka. Tatra ko mohakakshoka. ekatvam anupashrataha. Ekatvam anupashrataha. Yasmin, in the situation, sarvani, all, bhutani, living entities, atma, the chitkana or spiritual spark, eva, only, abhuta, exist as, vijanataha, of one who knows, tatra, therein, ka, what, moha, illusion, ka, what, shoka, anxiety, ekatvam, oneness in quality, anupashrataha, of one who sees through authority or one who sees constantly like that. Mantra 7, translation. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? Now you might notice that this verse and the mantra yesterday are very similar. It's almost as if the speaker, having stated mantra 7, that achieving this vision of all beings as divine sparks of God means never having to know anger. For some reason feels motivated to repeat almost exactly that same idea. Now this is interesting. What are we learning about the speaker? Who is the speaker of the Isopanishad? Have we formed an impression of this person? We derive an idea of a text and its speaker over the continuity of all the verses, right? Not just one verse in particular. Let me share the screen with you here. I've got some images that I put up here for you. There's a picture of one of my favorite actors, Laurence Olivier, in a I believe it was 1940s filmed version of Hamlet. If we were assigned to read Shakespeare's Hamlet, we wouldn't just read the to be or not to be speech. We'd read the entirety of the play. We'd attempt to understand, how did Hamlet get to this place, to this point of contemplating suicide? He's in an existential crisis, right? His father was murdered by his uncle, no less, who is sleeping with his mother, and Hamlet is expected to go along with all of this, and he can't. So this seminal soliloquy of to be or not to be has a lot of background. There's a lot of story that precedes that particular moment in the text. Or if we were to read Bhagavad Gita, we have to ask ourselves, how did Arjuna get to this point of hesitation? Not just hesitation, but complete catatonic freezing of his personality. He can't act. He can't do anything. Now, if you read the background story of Mahabharata, you come to see that not for one moment in his entire life had Arjuna ever hesitated. He was a decisive, capable, extraordinary warrior and statesman. But now, all of a sudden, he's frozen in place. He's going through a crisis. He describes himself at the end of the first chapter to Krishna. He says, I'm breaking out in a sweat. I can't even hold my bow and arrow. I feel dizzy. I don't remember my name. I can't stand up anymore. He's having a panic attack. So how does someone so qualified come to this moment? It's important to understand what that backstory is. We need to assess his condition based on the relationships he has had with the people he is now being called upon to kill. So some of the backstory here is that from his childhood, Arjuna and his brothers were essentially fatherless. Their father, Pandu, previous king, died at a very young age. And so Arjuna and his brother were raised by Pandu's blind brother Dhritarashtra. So they were, in a sense, fatherless. And his surrogate fathers, Dronacharya, his military guru, Bhishma Dev, his grandfather, these were his surrogate fathers, and now they are on the opposite side of this battlefield, and he is contemplating having to kill them. So we have to ask ourselves, what are the texts trying to say to us? What is the backstory here? To what degree do we take seriously the verses within the context of the entire text? Well, I think it depends on how seriously we accept the text as reality. If Krishna is only a metaphor, if we don't accept Krishna as having pardon this word, an ontological reality, if we don't accept that he is actually the supreme person with his own integrity, his own existence, not as a literary device, but as a full-fledged being, well, then it really doesn't matter why Arjuna is in despair, because the story is irrelevant. The story is secondary. It's a myth. It's a religious housing for putting good teachings out there into the world. We have no real benefit in accepting and studying the text within its larger literary and historic content. Just take the verses that you like, the verses that you find useful, and throw the rest away. But if we're serious about going deeper inside the meaning of each of these verses, if we're truly feeling that spiritual fire in the belly, that this physical form of mine, this can't possibly be all that there is to me. My soul is real. My eternal self is real. Krishna is real. He's not just some literary figure. Then every detail of these texts, whether it be Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam or the Sri Isopanishad, every detail of these texts deserves attention, deserves to be studied. So if the Isopanishad is real, if the speaker of the Isopanishad is a real person, then we may wish to ask this question: what is the background to this person? Why is this person saying the things that he or she is saying? Is it perhaps a woman speaking? Is it a man or is it a woman? If it's a woman, does that change the meaning somehow? Is this an older person or a young person? What kind of a person is it who's speaking these mantras? Well, what we do know, because we've discussed the last several mantras of Isopanishad, is that this is someone on the brink of death. But we don't know. Dying from what? Is this person dying of old age? Is this person dying from cancer? From being mortally wounded in battle? We have no sense of context. We don't know why this person is about to die. Is this person dying prematurely? And if so, would that alter our reading of this person's words? So just for the sake of clarity, let's review once again the 18 mantras, that is to say, the things that this person is speaking. Right? The first thing this person tells us, whoever this speaker is that in the invocation there is a higher reality. And in the first mantra of Isopanishad, the speaker tells us we are part of that reality. We too are perfect and complete beings because we emanate from that perfect and complete source. And then in the second mantra, the speaker tells us if you study this, if you practice this, then you can live your life without any regrets. And then in the third mantra, but if you ignore this teaching, then you become atmahana, you become a killer of your own soul. Then in the fourth and fifth mantras, there's this philosophical description of the Supreme Being, the goal of our spiritual practice. Then in the sixth mantra, we almost get a sense that this person is going deeper inside, becoming a little bit more introspective. When you reach this point of understanding, you begin to see God in all. And in tonight's mantra, there's no illusion for you in that condition. If you can see everything as part of that greater totality of a purposeful creation, there's no confusion anymore. And then between the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th mantras, as the speaker is approaching death, he or she begins to describe the possibility of attaining immortality. And in the 12th and 13th mantras, almost asks us this question: what are you seeking from life? What is it that you want out of your life? And for that matter, the concomitant question would be, what is it that you want out of death? What do you seek from your own dying? And then in the 14th mantra, the speaker reminds us that you can surpass death. And as we come toward the end in the 15th and 16th mantras, now the attention of the speaker turns away from us. We're no longer the focus of this person speaking. Who is the focus? It's Krishna. This person has now turned away from his or her own audience and says, please remove this glow that I may see your smiling face. Let me see you at last. And in the next to not last mantra, let my body be burned. Let me be free from this mortal coil, which is the phrase that Hamlet uses. What is that a reference to? Let my body be burned. It's cremation. He's saying, let me die finally. And if I am about to die, please don't forget me. Remember what it is that I've done for you all my life. And then finally, in the final statement of this person, we might assume that is just before dying. You, my dear Krishna, you know what my life has been, and I fall on the ground before you. Please clear my path to you. What an amazing thing that we've gone from this external sense of Om Purnamada, there's this, to I fall on the ground before you. And as long as we're making comparisons to Shakespeare, we might even compare the trajectory of these 18 mantras to Shakespeare's 7 Ages of Man, which is from one of his more rather light-hearted romantic comedies called As You Like It. But the speaker in that play is a philosopher who describes that all the world is a stage, and we are like players on that stage, and we go through stages of life from a mewling, puking little baby to the energetic and aspiring young person, and then we get older, and then finally we come to old age where again everything deteriorates and fades away. So we have, in a sense, the spiritual equivalent here of the 7 Ages of Man. And it comes down to, as far as my reading of Isopanishad goes, it comes down to how will we approach these mantras? How do we approach our life? Are we grabbing hold of every moment, which is what the speaker of Isopanishad seems to be doing so clearly? Are we wrestling our lives to the ground, digging into the meaning of every event, every second of every day? Are we making it real, so to speak? Are we just living, or are we alive? And if we're alive, then Krishna will speak to us. Every atom of our being, every moment will be an inspiration. And that is Krishna consciousness. That is Jivan Mukta. That is the goal of Isopanishad. That is the goal of bhakti. You don't even have to die. When you've reached that level, you're already in eternity. Death is a formality because you are already living with Krishna. If you see the reality of the Supreme Being in every moment around you, you're already home. You're already there. So we can open this up if you have some thoughts or comments. But I thought it was important to get a sense of Isopanishad, not just for within the mantra. Sometimes we read texts like that. We read Bhagavad Gita verse by verse, and we lose a sense of the bigger picture, the bigger story. What's going on here? You know, this is Arjuna having to confront the responsibility of killing people he loves. My God, what a dilemma that is. What a crisis, what a moment of existential crisis he's confronting. And the speaker of Isopanishad is in a similar dilemma, in a similar position. So any thoughts from you? I'd be very curious to know what your interaction has been with Isopanishad so far so this is the 9th session so far today.
I'd just like to say something about it. It's last few words you just spoke about it. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm in that stage, but I notice the biggest problem we have. I mean, we can name it in so many ways, like illusion, pain, or even happiness. But ultimately, we think that is like some problem, that is something stopping us to grow. And then in my thoughts, and I mean, it took a while for me to realize that it's the biggest problem we have is because we don't see everything around us belongs to Krishna. It's Krishna who's maintaining everything. So I mean, to be aware all the time, that we were surrounding with Krishna's presence in so many ways, like the nature and the air, the fire, whatever makes this planet be in orbit. So it's just like the biggest problem is not, we can find little small things, but actually the biggest picture of the problem is we're not connected with Krishna in this way. So this is my seeking actually. And this class has been wonderful. Every day I thinking about it, like to attend this, talking about Sri Isopanishad. Very, very nice. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I mean, Radha Madhava, you've put your finger on, I truly think that after attempting to share whatever it is that I've learned from Prabhupada with others, the biggest hurdle, the single biggest hurdle is this psychic impasse that we come up against time and time and time again. This idea that behind the majestic universe around us, that there's a person there. We're always confusing, Krishna with people as we understand them, and or equating him with religion in some manner, and he goes out of his way time and time again in the Puranas and Bhagavad Gita to reassure us, that's not who I am. I'm not the God of institutional religion. You don't need to be afraid of me in that way. I'm not judging you. I'm not looking down on you. I'm not making demands of you. Not once anywhere in Bhagavad Gita is there a phrase such as thou shalt do this or thou shalt not do that. You don't find that anywhere in bhakti. Bhakti is a voluntary expression of love, which is why at the end of Bhagavad Gita, the last thing that Krishna tells Arjuna is, I've told you whatever I can, just do what you think best. I trust you. I love you. I know you love me. do what you think best. You will never lose me. I'm here for you. And here in Isopanishad, my gosh, what an amazing thing. This, whoever this speaker is, thank God for this speaker who has seen fit to come so open and clean with us about his or her dilemma, as you were expressing, Radha Madhava, that I'm not there yet. I'm not a great soul. All that I can do is beg you, please don't kick me away.
Something similar here. My feeling was like this writer is at a very high stage. I may or may not reach there ever, but every time I'm in this company with you, I feel like I'm adding an element of humility, humbleness. It humbles me more every time, like with some percentage there. That it is a very high stage. I feel myself, I'm humbled actually. Humility is another element, which is like I felt, I can guarantee like it's increasing bit by bit every day. Thank you.
Beautiful. Oh, what a lovely thing to hear. Thank you, Ananda Vilas. What was that question from yesterday?
From Lara.
Well, and what was Lara's question? Let's see. We have a question from Lara yesterday. Said, let's say after death, based on your cultivation, you are reborn into a rich or wealthy family, and your intentions in your past life were to advance to Godhead, but you didn't quite make it. Since we can't remember our previous lives, how do we know where to start, where we left off in our previous life? Wouldn't it be like starting the cultivation process over completely again? Could we get caught up in samsara the next time around due to forgetting previous lives and intentions? Wow, what a nice question. Yeah, that would be the case if it were all up to us. The good news is that it's not. We're not alone in this. Because we don't remember previous lives, we don't know what our progress was then. You're quite right that we wouldn't otherwise know where to start off in this life. There's a mystery to it. How it is that some persons seem to take so readily to Krishna consciousness, to spiritual practice, and others have such a hard time with it. It's unfathomable. We really can't understand the background. I remember sitting with Prabhupada on the lawn outside London at the Manor, Bhaktivedanta Manor. It was a warm summer day, probably 1974, 75. And we were just sitting there chanting on our beads, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And there might have been 10 of us sitting around in a circle on the lawn. And I asked Prabhupada, how is it, Prabhupada, that there are, let's say, 10 people in a room, and all of them are equally unqualified to know God, all equally unqualified to advance spiritually, and yet one of them becomes a devotee and progresses and the others don't? How can we understand that? I'm a little embarrassed to tell you what happened. He looked at me, furrowed his eyebrows, had this kind of wicked little smile on his face, and shook his head back and forth, almost like saying to me, what an idiot you are. He said, he didn't say that, but what he said was, don't try to find a formula for causeless mercy. It's causeless. Ultimately, it is up to the mercy giver. Interesting. However much we may have qualified through lifetimes of yoga, lifetimes of spiritual practice, ultimately, whatever progress we make comes down to grace. We can't credit ourselves. We can't credit ourselves with any progress that we make spiritually. Don't do that. That's a big mistake. yes, it may be that technically we're here because we did something in previous lives. We were on the path and we fell away. We didn't finish our yoga practice. But even so, to progress from this point forward, that's through grace. So Ananda Vilas Prabhu, I think you said the right thing. Cultivating a sense of humility is really the foundation of our spiritual life. So thank you for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're at the end of our half-hour session. I'm always grateful for your company. Please do join me in the Vaishnav Pranam. Vanchakalpa turubhyascha, kripa sindhubhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you. Have a good evening, one and all.